This I had like this like obviously Beatles written all over this thing. And I
Yeah,
remember
did it remind you of anything? Anything
yeah,
at all? Anything
exactly.
at all? I
Yeah.
don't know what it could be.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I'm Andy and the fellow over there is John, and we get together, we share songs with one another, we go off, give them a listen, and come back and discuss them. And today, John is up to bat. John is going to be offering up me a song, and I'm going to scurry off and give it a listen. But in order to do that, I'm going to need to know the tune. So, John, who have you got, and what have you got?
Okay, it's revisit time, and we are going back into the much lauded vault of the Jam.
Ah, okay. Yeah. When you said go back to the well, I instantly think the Jam or REM, because those seem to be the two bands that like have a lot of hits that can carry over on this channel. So cool.
We're doing a clearly defined marathon of REM. I'm spacing them out for people who know it doesn't float that boat. It was the Jam. We can open up that door anytime and pick in. And this is a song which we have spoken about before, and we've listened to its B-side as well. And this is a song called Start.
Start. Okay. And you said we've talked about this one before.
Yeah.
Okay.
A very specific reason why.
Yeah. I think I might remember, but let me go off and give it a listen and I'll get confirmation and then come back and let you know. Bruce, you're killing it on this one, man. I love this. Sounds so good. It's very infectious, fun. Yeah, I don't know. It has this like, I don't know, kind of Beatles kind of feel to it. Like mid-era Beatles. But yeah, this is good. All right. Let's keep going here. It's a short one.
Feels as desperate as me. What you give is what you get. Doesn't matter if we never meet again, but we have said we'll always remain. If we get through for 2 minutes only, it will be a start. For knowing that someone in this life loves with a passion called hate, and what you give is what you get.
Yeah, there's like shades of like Paperback Writer or Day Tripper, like that era of Beatles stuff. And it's just lovely. It just sounds so good. This is a really fun song. Take it back a little bit.
And what you
yeah, that was a lot of fun. And you know what? It was like it was a collective effort. Like I've always there've been times where the songs have felt like they were very much Weller's project. And with this song, everybody and there, believe me, there have been other songs by them too where I've heard like like the Holy Trinity effect where they're all working together. This is that as well. Um, this is, man, like Rick on the drums doing awesome, like all these different little things punctuating the end of each progression. These different like auxiliary stuff, or whether it's little flourishes of rolls on the toms. Awesome, loved that. I mean, the bass is just carries the day in this song, and it's just, I mean, your boy, the Foxman Bruce, is just killing it, killing it. I love that. And there's a lot of really cool, interesting guitar stuff here too. Like there's all the fun rhythmic, melodic stuff, but then like that disjointed little lead thing that he kind of does. That was really, really awesome. And the production work in this too is like, again, I mentioned like sort of like the Help era beat, and it makes me laugh because this is Start exclamation point. It makes me think of like the Help era Beatles, which is Help exclamation point. But this is like the next evolution of that because there's some newer compared to when that stuff came out. There's some newer production choices being made in here, or like maybe it's clearer production choices that you can hear and feel the texture of a bit more with it, like the panning of sounds in certain ears, whether it's the drums or the guitars. It just sounds great. This was only 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but it was fun for exactly that amount of time as well. I really, really enjoyed this one. Yeah, this is maybe the most fun jam song we've done so far that John's had me listen to. Yeah, I really dig it. Let's get back to him and kind of chop it up. I'm wondering if he is picking up on these Beatles similarities as well in this one. But only one way to find out. Let's get back to him. Okay, so this I had like this, like obviously Beatles written all over this thing, and I remember.
Yeah, did it remind you of anything? Anything at all? Anything at all?
Yeah,
I don't know what it could be.
Exactly.
It could be something in the background, just hinting away. Something, I don't know what it could be.
I can't put my finger on it. But I can put my eyes on it. Holding it.
It sounds even though it is, it sounds awesome.
There's almost, if I didn't know the jam, like there would almost be this small guilt inside me for liking this.
Yeah.
Because it's so derivative, but I know that they're capable of not being derivative and being very much original and doing their own thing. So this is either just like they were like in a phase, or this, some Beatles had just like infested their mind and they had to get it out. Because I mean, we've heard so much different styles and stuff from Weller / the Jam, that I know this isn't their only trick, right? You know what I mean? So yeah, it was basically anything. Like at first I started to think Day Tripper and Taxman, and then I had the epiphany, like as I was listening, I was like, oh my God, this is the song that you were telling me where he just lifted Taxman from it. Right. So yeah, it definitely has that from Help to Revolver. Like if you told me that this song had come out on any album, including those two and in between, I'd been like, yeah, of course it did. Like that's the Beatles sound, mid-era Beatles. And it's funny because all those albums could almost have been just one huge album because all the sounds were so like intertwined and linked to one another. But yeah, so that washed over me. I was like, oh my God, yeah, this is why he picked this one. So Bruce starts it off and he kills it. I mean, even if that bass line is lifted, he plays it well. And it drives the whole song. It drives the whole song. And there's this like bridge portion in it. At like the 106, or maybe it's like a prequel, I don't know, but it's like that even has this really Beatles feel to it, and it's not even, that isn't as Taxman-y as the rest of the song, but that is like it's the product, like the ethereal, bright, and the harmonies like that happen in that is so Beatles that I was like, okay, so this album, or a lot of it, has to just be such an homage to or just a Beatles brain dump that they had to get out of their system. But yeah, I loved it. There's the same bridge port, or the same little portion of music has this lovely, like, what I think are like chime, like tinklings that are happening in the background, like hitting of the chime a little bit. I really, really liked that a lot. And then there's this like explosive crescendo of the snare, like paradiddles. So it's like, and it builds. And then it goes into this like short, odd, slightly close to off the rails lead guitar line. That also, like, the tone of is very mid 60s sounding, that it's like you can't escape it. And that was a lot of fun. And question, because I don't know if my mind was playing tricks on me when I was listening to this, but at the end when he's repeating the refrain, like, what you give is what you get, which even itself sounds like a Beatles line. The love you give, or the love you, what is it? The love you give is equal to the love you, or whatever that line is that McCartney says. Oh my God, what is that? But that is the same kind of like vibe I got off this "what you give is what you get" line that he's repeating. But are there trumpets in that are playing around with a guitar? Okay, yeah. Yeah. And then the guitar's doing weird, similar kind of like stuff on the guitar. And it's just it's great. It's fun how those two are like these little oddballs adding accents to the rhythm section riding through the middle of it. And yeah, that was really, really fun. And, I also found that as we've discussed in recent songs, this panning of sounds from one can to the other is fun, and like maybe the next production evolution of what the Beatles would have done, because it sounded a bit smoother than some of those original Beatles recordings, you know what I mean? Like we're what, 15 to 20 years later when this album was produced, right? Yeah. So it's
15 years.
Yeah, it sounds like.
Do you know that when you say 15 years, that sounds like a really short time?
It does. It does.
But it is actually a massive, in musical terms, it's huge, that period from 65 to 80.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah.
Exactly. 15
Whereas
years.
I think of 95 to 2010 is like nothing.
Exactly. It depends on what cluster of 15 years we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, 1965 to 1980 seems like forever.
Oh,
but
that's the whole universe. Sounds and movements and, and hippies and prog and punk. And
2020, I'd be like, oh, dude, that went by in a blink of an eye. You know what I mean? I wish I had these.
All sounded the same. Yeah.
So, it was, the production seemed a little bit more advanced in this, and everything was like, the panning was a bit smoother, and I just liked it. And it made me wonder if some of this stuff was around or as advanced as it was in 80 as 65, would the Beatles, or 66, would the Beatles have done some of this stuff? Because probably they would have, you know what I mean? So yeah, I really like that. And it is whimsical and fun and a little quirky and very Beatles derivative. But it made me smile the whole way through. So like that has to count for something, right? And I think I still would have smiled if I had never heard any of Revolver or any of that Rubber, or any of the mid-era Beatles stuff. So I think regardless of whether you're familiar with it or not, you still would have found this like a really fun 2:30 little jaunt of music, and I loved it. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to do a massive sort of dissection of it. Yeah, Revolver 66, I was just checking. Idiot. But this is, so yeah, we've spoken about the band ad infinitum. We've done a number of reactions to the jam on this channel, which I will put a link to all of them in the descriptions. So we've talked about the band, how they set up, etc., and you can go off and go through there. We will at some point, when we get around to it, probably do a playlist of jam reactions. I think we've got enough now. So just to say about this album, so this is from the 1980 album Sound Effects. thinking about it, and it does change, but it's probably my favourite Jam album. Probably. Although The Gift has my favourite Jam song on it, which isn't, for Jam fans out there, it's not the one you thought of. It's a different one. But anyway, so yes, they have admitted that the Beatles' Revolver album, you may have heard of it, was a massive influence. It was knocking around at the time. They couldn't stop listening to it, and it worms its way into a number of tracks. But I will say of Sound Effects, it is a fantastic album. It's really immediate. There's some great numbers on there. Pretty Green, Monday. But I'm different now. Set the House ablaze. I'm just reading off the list here because my memory's terrible. It has Start, this song, which is a big, big banger. That's Entertainment, which is another huge, huge song in the sort of canon of the Jam. Dreamtime, Man of the Corner Shop's another big one. Music for the Last Couple. Boy About Town, I've always loved, and Scrape Away. Yeah, they're all winners. Chicken dinners. So hence this song obviously having the Taxman bass line, and even the guitar solo is pretty much based on the Taxman solo. So when they put the album together, Polydor wanted Pretty Green, which is a nice song to be the first single, but Weller insisted on Start. They even got some sort of weird forum together with all his mates and got a vote on it. Anyway, he had his way, and it went out, and he was proved right because it went straight into number 3. Within a couple of weeks, it was their second ever #1 single. So a big, big banger. And you can see why. I mean, I love this song, don't get me wrong, but there are other songs which I think are better or sort of more complex or better structured. But as a radio-free, sort of friendly sort of hit song, it's just so immediate. And it has a little bit of a bounce to it. And obviously the B-side was Liza Radley, which we have talked about before, and had that guitar on which you didn't like, and I did. Bruce Foxton said the fact that it was #1 that knocked David Bowie, Ashes to Ashes, off the top of the charts, then I thought, wow, we really have arrived. Once you get a #1, it's a bit like Spinal Tap with their amps going up to 11. Once you get to #1, where do you go? That created a lot more pressure. And there's some various theories, and Paul Weller says some stuff about this song. So they're thinking about what it's about. I think it's fairly obvious. But he says he got the idea for the song after reading George Orwell's Homage to Catatonia, which is set in the Spanish Civil War. Weller said there's a lot of talk about an egalitarian society where all people are equal, but this was it, actually in existence, which for me is something that's very hard to imagine. And he said he thought that going underground was a peak, and they were getting a bit sort of safe for that sound. That's why they went something slightly different with Stars. And as you pointed out, this is the album version, which has those trumpets for the last section, which wasn't on the single. And I prefer that added bit of fun at the end. Yeah, no, because it just sort of tingles it up a bit. So I shall go through the lyrics.
One more observation before you jump into the lyrics. Something that I think I said during the review, but it only stood out to me. This would have been gone by unnoticed by me if the sound didn't scream the Beatles. But even the name with just like Start exclamation point reminded me so much.
An exclamation point,
help! Exclamation point, even the motif of using the punctuation and like this command, emphatic command was like, oh, that's so funny to me. So I mean, between that, the Eleanor Rigby, Liza Radley, connection, and now this, it's like it's going to be hard for me to not look for Beatles chestnuts throughout these listens.
Okay, so I looked on some of the websites, and of course, interesting enough, I didn't find anything about vampires or Jesus or drugs. But a lot of people saying it's about relationships, and then someone said, oh, this is about a groupie that Weller met and all this stuff, but I don't think it was. But it is a generalization. It's about, relationships and communicating between people. So it's not important for you to know my name, nor I to know yours. If we communicate for 2 minutes only, it would be enough. But knowing that there's someone in this world feels as desperate as me, and what you give is what you get. Doesn't matter if we never meet again. What we have said will always remain. If we get through for 2 minutes only, it will be a start for knowing that someone in this world loves with a passion called hate, and what you give is what you get. And then it's, if I never ever see you, 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 if I never ever see you again, and it goes into the solo. And then it's back to if I never ever see you again, never see you again, never see you again. And then it's what you give is what you get 4 times. What you give is what you get. Brilliant. Yeah. So just to put it in context, because I know you're going to ask me this. So the songs we listened to before. So just in a chronological order. 1980 March, Going Underground. 1980 August, Liza Radley, and obviously this one as well. 1981 May, Funeral Pyre. 1981 October, Tales from the Riverbank, the B-side of Acid Beginners. And 1982 January, Precious, double A-side with Temple Malice. So that's the timeline.
Okay.
So it's earlier-ish, but it's still that popular success they had. So they have really fantastic singles beforehand, but hitting the top echelons of the charts is really condensed down to like 2 years.
Yeah,
really.
that's what's impressive about it, because there's been such a variety of sound and perhaps influences that kind of brought those sounds out of them. But it's wild, because like some of the stuff, like I think Funeral Pyre, and is it Down by the River, that
Tales from the Riverbank,
Tales from the Riverbank, that those sound, there's this more, I don't want to say mature or seriousness to it,
developed though.
Yeah, and for them to just be like, oh yeah, that's what 1 year we're doing this, then a few months later into the next year we're doing this. They wear a lot of hats musically and can do a lot of things. And again, you're talking about 3 people creating all this different sound, and that's
in such a short time. So you can understand. I mean, it real snowballed, become this beast, the Jam, in terms of it. So you can understand being at the center of that sort of tornado. That I probably wanted to step back, because it's a lot. And there's a lot of output as well, and a lot of creativity in a really short amount of time.
Oh, I'm sure it's exhausting, like mentally and creatively exhausting, and then also physically having to tour and promote all this shit and all that. So
I mean, if this had been like over 5 years, that wouldn't have been unreasonable for a band's output.
Yeah,
and success. But so it's
well,
understandable.
think about the band we keep bringing up in this. I mean, 64 to 66 were all those albums and songs we've been alluding to,
and tours,
and tours and all that. So I mean, I guess with success comes, I'm sure, exhaustion.
And it seemed again like the 4 that we're talking about, they seem to really, so musically enjoy themselves a lot more when they stopped touring. I mean, they still had their fallouts and all that, their stuff, but musically you can see how much they really sort of went for it after that.
For sure.
And we're all the better for it, all of us.
Agreed.
Cool. All right then. Well, this is a really fun song. It's an instant sort of smash hit, and I do adore it. And there's this spikiness, that's natural spikiness of Weller, which he doesn't really shed for a couple more years, where even when he's saying it, it sounds like he wants to hug you and slap you at the same time. He's got a bit about that angry youth edge to it, which again is so appealing when you're young and you hear this on the radio. What you give is what you get. Well,
the funny thing with this one was, and I think I may have mentioned this too, we keep prolonging when we're gonna wrap this up, but this really sounded like a product of the 3 of them, and less like a Weller driven song, at least for listening to, because it was so rhythmically, like the drums and the bass stood out to me as the best part. I mean, the guitar had that fun little 10 seconds in the sun with a weird little lead that he did, and the fun stuff at the end but that was actually overshadowed by the trumpet's appearance. But like the bass and the drums for me were great. So this to me sounded like when they were really at their like a great just highlight of them working as a 3-man team to
Yeah,
get this thing done, and I
definitely.
enjoyed that aspect of it too.
I think that's one of the things about the Jam is on the whole, there's so, you know, when you have a singer-songwriter who's at the front of the band,
Right.
they tend to be at the front of every song as well. And I know he's you know, he's lead vocals, but he doesn't push his guitar to the fore all the time, you know. And
Mhm.
the highlight of a lot of Jam songs is the bass line, and then the way it interplays with the drums, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's the other stuff is a good stuff on top, you know. Not
Yeah.
always, but quite often.
Yeah. Well, good
Cool.
on him for not making himself the diva of the band, because those guys in that rhythm
Yeah.
section tear it up. I mean, they kind of remind me of how Muse's drums and bass can. Don't Bellamy does some awesome shit on guitar, but the drums and the bass on a lot of those songs are really like what drive and let him do the fun shit on the guitar, because they're just carrying like buckets of sound between the two of them, and there's kind of that going on. This is like an earlier version, not their sound, but just their approach to being a 3-man band,
Yeah.
and how they can create and as much sound as they can. Rhythm section.
Well, I think Bellamy went through that phase. He got it out of his system, didn't he? He certainly went through it where it was all about the guitars, and I think he came through the other side of it. And actually, their output after that was I prefer it. You know,
Yeah.
not that I'm a massive Muse fan, but you know, I know a bit of their stuff, and some of it I really enjoy. You know, Nights of Chlamydia and all that. Anyway, once you say it, you can only call the song that from then on. That's the
Those are
name
the
of it.
one-sided nights, John.
Right, I will wrap things up now. Now we've passed on SDTs to everybody. So thanks for listening to this Sunday. Folks out there, thanks for listening to this as well. Tell us what you think. Hit the like button if you like this. Come on, vote with your feet. Well, no, vote with your hand clicking on the mouse. Unless you're auditioning for an amateur production of My Left Foot, then well done you. But yeah, drop some comments. Let us know what you think. How does this sit with you in terms of Jam songs? And I'm guessing some of our regular viewers, strict contributors, will remember this when it hit the charts. I know I did, even though I was only knee-high to a grasshopper. But yeah, drop us your thoughts and other Jam songs which we haven't done yet, which you enjoy, which may or may not influence our decision. If you haven't subscribed, please do. There will be more Jam songs coming, as sure as eggs is eggs. And we need all support we can get, and we really appreciate everybody who does help support this channel by subscribing. It helps all the numbers and algorithms and all the other tricky weird shit. Yeah, so that being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we will see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.